Welcome back, everybody, to Guys Night Lab.
Yes.
So today, we are going to be doing a special event because today is Friday the 13th. And, you know, you only get so many years where Friday the 13th falls in October. And sometimes it does and sometimes it doesn't. But I think it's a special occasion because it's Friday the 13th. And
it's a red letter day.
Yes. And one of my favorite movies is... favorite series is Friday the 13th.
Shawshank Redemption. Oh, I thought you were going somewhere else.
Yes, My Dinner with Andre. So, in the movie with My Dinner with Andre, My Dinner with Jason.
And just in time for Friday the 13th.
Yes. Anyways, so what I wanted to do is I did it with the Halloween series where I kind of broke down the timeline of the Halloween movies, of the different movies and the remakes. What I wanted to do today is do that with Friday the 13th because the Friday the 13th movies are they're a little more linear than the Halloween movies. But they're still kind of a little out of whack. So I kind of want to clean it up. You know, my OCD mind here wants to clean it up and polish it up so you know what you're getting into.
I think they need a good cleanup. I think they need a good, especially for people who have not gone through all the movies like we have numerous times, and we love the movies, even the bad ones. Well, there's a couple in there. But anyway, it's a series near and dear to our hearts. But yeah, let's go through them a little bit and kind of give some clarification for maybe someone who hasn't seen all of them.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna clean them up, group them, and give you an idea of what you're getting into with each movie and each sequel. So with Friday, the original Friday, and we talked about this with the movies we hate. I don't hate the movie. It's not my favorite one because the original one, spoiler, if you haven't seen the original Friday, here we go. 3, 2, 1, spoiler. It's not Jason Voorhees. He's not in the movie. He's just a character in the movie that's kind of referred to because he's a child that died, and the mother is the killer.
Blaming the camp counselors for not watching him, not looking out for them because they were busy fornicating, doing drugs, doing whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So she is the killer in the first one. So there's no Jason Voorhees. So like me, who started on a different Friday the 13th, I think I started in part 5, part 6. So those are like my favorites. So going back to the original, watching it later in life, I was like, oh, it's good, but there's no Jason. So, Friday the 13th, the original, I think actually kind of stands alone on its own island. I don't think I
can see that.
It starts off the movie, the franchise, but it's on its own island because there is no hockey mask Jason Voorhees.
It's almost just like a prequel.
Yes, perfect. It's like I would call it the prequel, even though it's the kickoff, the part 1. But yeah, prequel would be the best way to describe it. So then we go to Friday part 2, and Friday part 2. The Mrs. Voorhees is,
Pamela Voorhees.
She's gone, and so now we're finally introduced to Jason Voorhees. And so this one's there's some good kills in this one, but the difference of part 2 is that we're finally starting with Jason Voorhees, but it's potato sack Jason Voorhees.
Exactly.
So if you don't know what potato sack Jason Voorhees, you're gonna have to watch part 2 because It's kind of like a country bumpkin killer, Like He's kind of like if you ever seen the newer movies, what's the one? The Victor Crowley.
Why can't I think of it? Oh gosh,
Hatchet.
Yeah, Hatchet movies.
It's kind of
that's a good comparison.
It's kind of like that, Like he's just got overalls or whatever.
He's got overalls, a potato sack. He's killing people with pitchforks. And stuff.
So, I mean, there's some good kills, some good camp counselor characters or whatever.
Oh, dude, the characters in this one is where they really establish the campy, fun characters for camp counselors. There's the homeboy in the wheelchair.
Is that part 2?
There's the one girl. Yeah.
So there's some great kills in this one, but But part 3 is really where it kind of like the franchise is kind of like officially there.
It's in full stride now.
Because part 3 is in 3D.
Oh, yeah.
And it stars Harold.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So Harold. But anyways, part 3 is where Jason Voorhees finally finds the hockey mask.
Yep.
Okay? So we finally established the hockey mask icon, and that's who he is. He's Jason Voorhees that we all know and love.
Yep, the man, the myth, the saint.
That's right. So then after part 3, and I'm just going to give brief synopsis on that, not even synopsis, but just little things. I'm not going to talk about the whole movies, but I'm cleaning up the timeline. So after part 3, we go to part 4. But before we go to part 4, we're going to go back to 3, 2, and 1. So if I were to group these ones, I think 1 is kind of by itself.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
And then 2 and 3 go together. but it would be more like one's by itself and then two's together, but three's over here, kind of like almost like 1A and 1B.
Yeah, I could see that. That
because
makes sense.
they're the same, but we got Potato Sack Jason and then Hockey Mask Jason,
Right.
which he doesn't get his hockey mask
I was
until
just gonna say not until after halfway through the movie.
halfway through the movie. So we still got like Potato Sack Jason for a while. So
Don't forget Paul Kretka.
Yeah, Paul cracked. Oh yeah, it's in 3D. It's great. So anyway, so those two kind of go together. After this, I think the franchise splits off from those 3 movies because the final chapter, it's called the final chapter. I don't know
Part
why
4,
because you're only 4 movies in with like 6 more to go. But
they claim that that was gonna be it though.
yeah, but this one was because this is what established Jason as like the icon. I know that part 3 introduced the hockey mask Jason, but this is the one that was like the icon of who Jason is.
Yes.
It's got that poster where like the knife is through the eye and then the cut skull or cut hockey mask. But this one has the actual characters, and it introduces a very important character, Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis, played by Corey Feldman.
Yes.
This also has Crispin Glover with the amazing dance.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So this one has like instead of camp counselors, I think they're at a party at a house.
Right.
And
there's people who live there, and then there's teenagers who come in for like a hangout at the house by the lake.
And so, but Tommy Jarvis is the main character in this. He's our main protagonist for these movies now, or for these next set. But
coolest little boys' room ever, by the way, with all of his monster masks and everything.
Yeah, it's so great.
They're all Tom Savini's work too.
Oh yeah, Tom Savini.
He did the special effects on this one.
And so, but yes, Tommy Jarvis. He's our Laurie Strode. He's like our main character, our main protagonist. He's the one that's going to be fighting Jason one-on-one. The kills in this one are great. The characters. The storyline, the B story with the brother, there's disposable characters. The guys repairing their car. So there's like the kills are better. It's punchier. It came out in 1984. It's way more 80s camp.
Totally.
But this is the official start of the Friday the 13th franchise, in my opinion. Like
Agreed. They're full steam.
They're full steam now.
Yeah.
So then after part 4, which starts the franchise, part 5. You'd think it'd be 4, 5, and 6, but no, we're gonna go. So we got 1, and then 2 and 3, and then 4 starts a new kind of franchise. But I'll explain in a second. We got 5. Well, I'm gonna put it down here. It should not be up here. So 4 and then 5 down here.
Right.
Now there's gonna be spoilers in part 5. So if you have not seen part 5. Seriously, do not watch this because it'll spoil a big thing about the movie.
And we have to spoil it to
talk about cleaning up this mess. Okay, here we go. So part 5. Great characters. Tommy Jarvis is in it. He's older. He's kind of like in a group home. He's got like anger issues and everything. Part 5, in my opinion, has the best kills, the most creative kills.
It really does.
The funniest characters because it has
Reggie.
Reggie.
It's got a chocolate bar guy.
Well, you could just forget it then. It's like, what?
Nick, good old Nick.
So it's probably one of the best Friday. It probably would be one of the best Friday movies.
Agreed.
Might even be my favorite, maybe. But there's a reason it falls down the ladder really quick.
Yes.
And that reason is at the end of the movie, you figure out or you realize. So anyways, Tommy Jarvis is having these like psychotic things because it's a trauma of part 4 that by the way, Tommy Jarvis is played by a different character, not Corey Feldman, but he has this reoccurring dreams that or sights that he's seen Jason Voorhees, and then he takes pills and then it goes away.
So he's got bad PTSD, obviously.
Absolutely. So then Jason Voorhees shows up.
And he's like in a group home, basically, right? With like other troubled teens or whatever.
Yeah. And so Jason Voorhees finally shows up, and then he sees him towards the end is when he finally sees him. But then there's the little thing in part 5 where it's kind of like insinuating that Tommy Jarvis is the new Jason and he's killing these people. Yeah. And because Tommy Jarvis doesn't see Jason Voorhees until the very end. So you're almost thinking that it's Tommy Jarvis who is killing these people.
Right.
Because at the end of part 4, there's kind of like a little cliffhanger where like they zoom in on Tommy Jarvis's eyes and he's like, Yeah. But anyways, so Tommy Jarvis fights Jason Voorhees, and then you find out that Jason Voorhees is a copycat killer.
It's not Jason Voorhees.
It's not Jason Voorhees. Jason Voorhees is dead and buried under the ground. This Jason Voorhees is a copycat regular person.
Yep, exactly. And we won't get into details of why he's doing this, but basically he's avenging his son's death.
Yes.
And he's blaming these people for it. So You still need to watch it. Unfortunately, now, if you haven't seen it and you just heard this, it doesn't matter. Still go watch it because, like Sue said, up to the very last 5 minutes of the film, when you realize it's not Jason Voorhees, you're going, dude, this Friday is super fun. It's really good.
It's great. But then, like I said, once the mat reveals that it's not Jason Voorhees, I'm telling you, the crowd was just like, what is, that's not Jason.
Yeah.
So then it just kills some of the aura. So that's part 5. Then we go into part 6, which is the best coup de grace movie of all time.
It is a masterpiece.
And so, so then 4 and 6, I guess, would be more direct sequels, even though 5 is a direct sequel of 4, but they're getting rid of the copycat killer. So in part 4 and part 6, the trailer for the movie and even in the intro, they got Corey Feldman back to go and look at Jason Voorhees' grave in the rain, and then Jason Voorhees comes out of the grave and like is gonna kill Corey Feldman or Tommy Jarvis. But they got the actor Corey Feldman, and then it's a dream. He wakes up, but it's showing that like, oh, we're going back to part 4 now.
Right.
And so the way it kicks off is they're going because he wants to burn Jason Voorhees' corpse. So because I guess I don't know if they're ignoring part 4 or part 5 because Tommy Jarvis is a different character and he wasn't in the group home. So
I'm telling you, like you said before, I think it's hard because 5 would be completely on an island by itself. The only connection is Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy Jarvis, yes.
That's it.
So 3, 4, and 5 could be direct sequels, but I think 5 is almost another island. Like it's like right here. And so 4 and 6 are closer. Or they are direct connections.
Yeah.
But I mean 6 is the best. You know, it starts off.
It really is.
The whole Frankenstein intro, or that's just the eeriness, the rain. They stab him. They try to burn him. It starts raining. Lightning strikes the pole. It revives Jason. Now Jason's just not a deformed country bunk killer. He's this monster zombie killer now. The kills are great. The campers are great. The characters are great. The sheriff is great. The sheriff's daughter is great. The campers. So what did you want to do? What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, I mean,
exactly. There's some great lines.
So it's such a great movie. So part 6, there we go. So let's reset now because we're at part 6 because it's gonna get a little funky after this. So part 1, let's just call it a prequel, but it's the start. 2 and 3 go together, kind of, and then 4 is the start of Tommy Jarvis' story arc. 5 has Tommy Jarvis, but copycat killer's over here. And then part 6 is over here with part 4. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? Because now it's going to get a little funky. So here we go. Part 7. I don't know. I don't know why they didn't bring back Tommy Jarvis, but
I know.
So at the end of part 6, Tommy Jarvis puts I never understood this, but he got a big boulder rock and a chain and wrapped it around Jason's neck, and then that like you
gotta believe me, and shoves it in the bottom
and then
of
puts
the
it at
lake.
the bottom of the lake, and then Jason's stuck. But I'm like, if you're like a super like monster killer now that's unkillable, couldn't you just like unhinge the lock?
Yeah, they definitely walk away from it quickly in the end of part 6, where you're like, yeah, I'd ought to take care of that.
Yep. So, anyways, but still the greatest movie ever. I'm not going to question it whatsoever.
You know what? I take it back. Sorry, it's wonderful.
Part 7 is a direct sequel to part 6, though. So it's still canon. It still connects, but Tommy Jarvis is gone. That story arc is on. So Tommy Jarvis lived happily ever after, so I love it. Great. But he's gone. He's not in any more Friday movies.
Right.
So now we got this other character. Excuse me. So we have another character. And I think her name is Tina. And so part 7 is actually introducing not a new character, but a new...
protagonist.
Protagonist, but a new icon. And this is where Kane Hodder comes in as Jason.
Yes.
So Kane Hodder is, I mean, burly. You could tell like his Jason walk, his stance. He's a great Jason.
He does the like heavy breathing when he's standing still. Yeah, he's super creepy.
He's the best Jason in the worst movies. It's just a shame because he does so good at Jason, but the stories that go with it. So anyways, part 7, it starts, I think her name is Tina. She's a new protagonist, but she has like these psychic powers, which is a cool idea.
Yeah.
You know, Jason fighting someone that has like telekinesis, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, you have a new crop of like, it's not counselors or just like kids at a party house or whatever.
Right.
But then there's like a therapist and the girl and then like the mom. it just doesn't really go anywhere.
No, and like you said before too, it's such a cool idea because the whole point of her having these special powers is because finally someone can be on Jason's level to combat him properly. But where they go with it, with her dad B story and stuff like that, drowning in the lake and everything, of her guilt over that. Anyway, not to get into all of it, but it's one of those movies where it could have been cool. There's no good payoff though.
Yeah.
Kane Hodder's the best part of it.
Yes, Kane Hodder is definitely the best part of it. So then after that, we go to Friday the 13th, Part 8, which is, once again, a direct sequel to Part 7, but it has nothing to do with, like, so at the end of Part 7, like, the girl's dad, who's supposed to be, like, an abusive father, technically, in her past, comes back and saves her from the dead in the Porch Lake or something.
They never explain it.
It's so weird. It makes no sense. But anyways, in part 8, it's Jason Goes to Manhattan. Now, when I was a kid and I saw this trailer, I was like ecstatic. I'm like, oh my gosh, they're taking Jason out of Camp Crystal Lake or like the woods and the lake and bringing him to the big city.
Oh yeah,
I'm like, this is gonna be.
How could you not be excited?
Yeah,
for
this is gonna be awesome. And so like that idea is actually really cool. Like taking it away from like its known habitat and putting it somewhere that's a little not known. And more where there's more people.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I was like, this is cool. Only problem was it doesn't take place in Manhattan. It takes place on a tugboat. where these
on a party boat, right?
Yeah, it's a party boat. These high school seniors are having a party boat.
These high school seniors who all look 50 again.
Yeah, I swear it's like a tugboat or like a whatever.
It's just a barge, yeah.
It's not like a cruise ship or anything.
No.
But anyways, most of the movie takes place on the boat. That's where most of the kills are, most of everything. It isn't until like the last maybe 30 minutes where they're rowing to Manhattan or New York or whatever. And that's where like Jason kind of does a little killing in there.
Which they only had permits and could afford to shoot there for 2 days, I believe, if I remember.
So yeah, they made the most of it, but it's not Jason Takes Manhattan. It should be Jason on a boat.
Yeah.
But there's no like redeeming characters. There's no Tommy Jarvis. It's just one off. And I mean, that pretty much like completes the Friday the 13th series. Now, I'm going to say that reservation. Okay. So it leads into a new series because that was the Friday the 13th series. After this, okay, so there's a reboot and we'll talk about that separately.
Right.
But everything after this is not called Friday the 13th anymore.
Yeah, it's Jason stuff.
It's called Jason. No, like, yeah, it's called Jason stuff.
Yeah.
So after this, it's called Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and Freddy versus Jason.
Yep.
So this is the end of the Friday the 13th, like, set. So we're going to cap that off. So we got Friday the 13th right here, prequel, okay? Not a prequel, but it's part 1.
Right.
But it's kind of a prequel. Then we got 2 and 3 together, a little different, but Potato Jason, Hockey Mask Jason.
Potato Jason.
Then we got the Tommy Jarvis story arc with part 4 where the franchise kicks off, part 5 with the spoiler copycat, and then part 6 with the canon. Then we have part 7, which is still kind of part of the story arc, but not really, so we'll just put them in the middle, and then part 8 is just a continuation.
Right.
But the thing where they all continue is they do continue where the last one left off. It's at part 5. It's kind of gray. But
yeah.
Every single one, part 1 does lead into part 2. Part 2 does lead into part 3. Part 3 technically does lead into part 4.
Yeah.
And then part 4 technically does lead into part 5 because we're looking at the trauma that Tommy Jarvis did have.
Right.
But part 6 kind of ignores part 5 and goes back to part 4.
Correct.
So part 5 was almost like the Halloween 3 season of the witch.
Yeah.
Part 5.
Part 5 was their season of the witch.
Yes,
right.
they kind of ignored. Like I think the audience ignored that one and they just went straight to part 6.
Right.
So then part 6, even though the Tommy Jarvis story arc is over, it does continue because the way he's still on the chain on the rock. That's how he gets away.
Yeah.
So and then part 7 into 8, we see him what happened in part 7. He's in part 8.
Correct.
But then after that, like that's it, the end.
Yeah.
And those movies are done, technically. We still get more Jason movies, but they're not Jason movies. So let's wipe this clean. The Friday the 13th, gone. So then we go into technically part 9, which is Jason Goes to Hell. So it's not called Friday the 13th part 9, but it is technically part 9. And this is the only... So in the 80s, we had 8 Friday the 13th movies, 8 Jason Voorhees, or I guess 7 technically, because the first one's not Jason, but 7 Jason Voorhees movies in the 80s. In the 90s, we had 1.
Yeah, that's
true. It was
true.
1993, and it was called Jason Goes to Hell. Now, this movie is, I mean, it is, okay.
It is somehow worse than Takes Manhattan.
It is worse. Here's the thing. The idea of if this was like a movie, like it wasn't Jason, it was just a movie, it would actually be like, oh, that's a cool concept. So the concept of the movie is like, it sets up kind of like the Camp Crystal Lake Jason, but Jason looks really weird in this one. Like he's super burly. His face, his head is like super like globe.
Yeah, it's like misshapen and stuff. Yeah,
and so anyway, but you could just tell like something's off in this one. And so like it starts kind of like with the Camp Crystal Lake. This the slave's taking a shower, and then Jason's trying to kill her, and then like she's running away. But it's kind of awesome because the intro is kind of sweet because then they set this trap where all the SWAT team and everyone's shooting Jason, even the girl. She's like got a towel on. And she's like, dude.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then like the whole SWAT team's dropping him. They like drop a dynamite and they blow him up. I'm like, finally, there you go. That's what you should have been doing the whole time. And you're like, okay, maybe this movie's gonna kick some butt. It's definitely got potential, but that's it. So then they blow up Jason's body. They retrieve all his body parts and take him to the morgue, and then like the mortician or whatever, what he does is he eats Jason's heart because it's still beating. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he was possessed or who knows what, but he's the new Jason now. And it's not just the mortician; it's like he pretty much transfers from body to body. It's like Shocker without the charm.
Do you notice how in every one of these franchises, except for Nightmare on Elm Street, they're always going for the new person? It's like we talked about in the new Halloween trilogy. They have the new Michael. Yeah. In the original Friday series, you have maybe Tommy's the new Jason Voorhees or whatever. So it's just I don't know why they always try to push that angle. I think we want to see Jason.
I think they think that the audience, because after 8 movies, you're like, oh, like it's gonna get stale. It's like, yeah, it's 8 movies. Obviously, it's gonna get stale, but just have good writing.
Yeah, maybe make better movies.
It's like after 8 movies, it's gonna get a little stale, a little repetitive. Yes, we've seen this before, but why do we keep coming back? Because that's what we like. We just want to see something new. So, anyways, the whole movie is like it just goes from body to body, from person to person. And it's just it's just a regular person, no mask or anything. It's just like if Jordan ate the heart, then Jordan's going around killing people, Jason Voorhees style. And then I guess it only lasts so long that he has to like transfer the slug or whatever to someone else.
Yeah, it had slugs and it's almost like a possession. Basically.
Yeah. And like I said, if this was a different movie, like a different name, not Jason, I'd be like, oh, that's a cool concept. But anyways, Jason shows up at the very end because. And this is what's even weird about the movie. So the slug at the end gets transferred into a female in a very weird way. And I was just like, okay, that was unnecessary, but okay. And then Jason appears. I'm like, is this female Jason or what's going on?
Yeah.
And just, I don't know. But it's just, the movie ends where this guy is like.
They have a script problem. Yeah.
So there's like this cowboy guy. And he's got like this knife that kills Jason. It's like, where did this knife?
Enchanted dagger.
It just showed up. It wasn't on any of the Friday 13th Part 1 through 8 canons. It just showed up somewhere.
Conveniently.
So anyways, Jason Goes to Hell, the final Friday. Awesome title, but horrible movie. Horrible concept, horrible idea for a Jason movie. It ends, and it has one of the best endings. Let me rephrase that. Not the ending, but cliffhanger endings ever. At the end of the movie, after that whole that whole mess is over, Jason's mask is just in the dirt and wind is blowing, and then it's just like you're like, okay, and then freaking Freddy Krueger's claws come up and grab his mask and bring it down, and you're like, oh my gosh, like this had been talked or rumors for years where Freddy versus Jason.
And this is 93. People are losing their minds excited.
Like a crossover had never been talked about that.
Totally.
Like I know that's not like the Avengers and everything, but a crossover like that, not even a thought. But this horrible movie got this awesome crossover moment, and like it was wasted on this movie.
Totally. And that's what they used to do back in the Universal Monster days is they started doing crossovers, and that's where that all started. And so people got really excited about that notion, and it's like, oh, this is the first time it's been done in years.
Yeah.
And then they go nowhere with it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So then after that, we got Jason Goes to Hell. Here we go. Just a completely different one-off movie. It has nothing to do with the other 8. It's a different movie, not even a Friday the 13th. So then that was in 93. So then almost 10 years later, I think 8 years later, we get Jason X. And I like Jason X. Like I said, it's not called Friday the 13th. It's called Jason X because I guess 10 is the 10th movie in the franchise, but it's not Friday the 13th part 10. It's just Jason X. And this one's a standalone too. It's not a continuation from Jason Goes to Hell because in Jason Goes to Hell, they blew him up and Freddy grabbed his mask and that was it. Right. And then in this one, it just starts off where like they're in the future. I think it's actually the movie came out in 2001 and it's supposed to take place in like 2022 or 2023, now.
Like right now.
And like this facility has Jason, like this military facility has Jason chained up and it doesn't explain anything. It's like, wait, so Jason's alive now? Like what's going on? So he's just in this facility and they want to, I understand the military's like, the writing on that made sense because the military wants to know why he can't die, why he keeps regenerating. So it's like, okay, we want to figure that out because we want to use it.
Right. How can we turn this into a weapon?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, okay, that makes sense. So then obviously he kills all the military, tries to escape. There's a cryogenic where they freeze. Jason gets frozen. The protagonist, the lady, gets frozen. And then it's like, I think 500 years in the future. Something like that. Earth is uninhabited. It looks like Mars like a dead planet. A group of students find Jason and this girl and they bring him on the spaceship. And then it's Jason in space. It's called Jason X, but it's Jason in space.
I call this Friday direct to video.
It kind of had a made for TV like movie feel.
It's still fun, by the way. I'm not slagging
it's fun.
It for that.
I mean, honestly, like this movie is fun compared. Because here's the thing: like Friday the 13th, Jason Goes to Jason Goes to Manhattan. I'm getting them all mixed up. Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Goes to Manhattan. You're thinking he's going to go to Manhattan, and so when you're disappointed that he's not, then you're kind of thinking like, oh, okay. But this one is like, from the trailer, from the poster. From the synopsis that it's Jason in space. So that's what you're getting. You're getting Jason in space and you're getting those early 2000 like futuristic what space is going to be like in 500 years tropes. Like with like the games or the plasma guns or the regeneration and like all this stuff. So like a kid gets his arm cut off but then they put it back on because it's the future. So I like it because it's like, okay, it's Jason in space. That's what I'm getting. I'm not expecting much. Yeah. It's definitely low budget. It's cheesy, but I was entertained because it was the first Jason in almost 10 years that I got. And I was like, you know what? I'll take it. I don't have anything else.
It's still a fun movie. It's the special effects don't hold up. Some of them, obviously, it's kind of almost looks like an A24 or an Asylum or whatever. Yeah, it's like it for the time, kind of better quality than that. We just lost our light.
It's okay. We're going to go without our light. Anyways.
We'll go without the light.
That's right.
But basically, it has kind of a made for home video release kind of vibe to it, but it's still fun. I don't know what it is. It's like it's cheesy, it's bad, but it's also enjoyable.
What makes it great though is that it's like it's cheesy, but it's like I think the movie knew what it was.
Right.
And it's just like
true. Self-aware.
It was self-aware. It was cheesy. It had great kills. The characters are funny. Like the college students are funny. The one-offs, the whatever. It's just it was a good kind of like cleanser of okay, that was a fun movie.
It's the Halloween Resurrection of the Friday series.
Yes. I like this one better than Halloween Resurrection, but yes.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So then after that, then we go to 2003, which is actually a really fun movie. It's Freddy versus Jason. So once again, another Jason title. And so Freddy versus Jason, we've been waiting for this forever, the crossover. In this movie, it's 20 years old. It's insane.
I know, that's so weird to think about.
When I saw this movie, the original Friday the 13th came out, well, in 80. So that's like, it's about the same like timeline difference. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's true.
But Freddy versus Jason, I don't care what anyone says, it is a lot of fun. Okay, you got Robert Englund playing Freddy Krueger, who's great. I don't think Kane Hodder is doing Jason at this point.
I don't remember if he does him in this movie.
Yeah, but it's still fun. The storyline's cheesy. It's kind of stupid, but Freddy Krueger's people forgot about him, and he's using Jason to kill people in the real world. So, to make people think that it's Freddy killing them, and then so he could gain his powers of fear and then come back and kill people.
Yep.
But then he thinks he can control Jason, and obviously Jason can't be controlled. But there's fun characters, there's fun kills. It's stupid and cheesy,
but the movie is fully worth it for the last third.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When you finally get, because you got Freddy killing kids, Jason killing teenagers, and then it's like you're just watching this movie for the last act when you're like finally like, when are Freddy and Jason gonna fight?
Because Freddy basically locks up Jason in the dream world and is torturing him, and then something happens to where Freddy gets brought into the real world with Jason. Then the heavy metal soundtrack starts, and you're just like, oh, here we go.
And it's well worth the wait.
Totally.
Okay?
Yeah.
So those are the Jason movies. Okay, so we got the Friday the 13th through Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Goes to Manhattan, and then we got the isolated. They're all kind of one-offs. They don't continue. So we got Jason Goes to Hell, Jason X, and then Freddy versus Jason. Once again, no Friday the 13th tag on it, just Jason. I don't know if there was like production rights or anything like that, but for whatever reason, it still has Jason Voorhees, but they're not canon to the other ones. Just Jason. And then in 2010 or 2009,
I think it was 2009 as the remake.
yeah, we had Friday the 13th, the remake. In this movie, I was really excited because we hadn't had now, here's the thing. I don't know if time just felt more forever back then, but we hadn't had a Friday the 13th in 8 years. That's a long time, almost 10 years. And so it's like I was excited to see the Friday the 13th remake. And
it was fun. You remember we watched all of them in the dirge leading up to the release date.
Oh, that's right.
Night,
yeah.
And we were actually finishing Jason Goes to Hell right before we went to go see the remake.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then we saw the remake, and I was like, oh, it's not that bad. It was okay. Maybe it's because we just saw Jason Goes to Hell, and I was like, oh, it wasn't bad. And you were like, no, that wasn't good. And I was just like, no, that wasn't great. But then I rewatched it. I'm like, oh, that was not good.
They just had some bad ideas, bad execution, the whole Jason's tunnel system underground, things like that, where I was like, it wasn't needed.
Yeah. It was like it was a new version of Jason, but that was not Jason. He had the mask, but
it didn't feel like him for some reason.
It didn't feel. Right. He walked a lot faster, way faster, like almost jogging.
It's fast zombie Jason,
and he was like, didn't he have like a crossbow or something? And I know
he was using different weapons and stuff.
I know he had crossbow in Part 3 with the like 3D.
No, you're right, because he takes out the girl on the boat,
Yeah.
or the guy on the boat, the speedboat going by. Yeah,
it just was. It had a charm, but not a good charm, and it just like, I know people like love it because a new generation, that was probably their first Jason, but watch the old ones.
Can't hold a candle.
Can't hold a candle. And I mean, so those are kind of like, that one's a Friday the 13th remake. So it has no canon to anything else, but it has the original title, but it has no canon to the original or anything. They just gave it the Friday the 13th reboot. But unlike the other, like the Halloween timeline that I've been cleaning up, where the Rob Zombies and then the 2018 Halloween Kills, Halloween Ends, that's just it. It's just a reboot. And unfortunately, that was 2009. So there's been no Friday the 13th, no Jason movies for 14 years, which is sad.
That's true.
Like, that's crazy.
That is a bummer.
Like, I mean, if you think of like the timelines, if you think of Friday the 13th, or let's just say Freddy versus Jason, that came out in 2003. If that was 14 years, the next one would have been what, 2017?
Yeah.
That's a long time. If you take the first one, Friday the 13th Part 1, which came out in 1980, and then you waited 14 years, that'd be 1994.
I know.
It's just, it's crazy. 14 years, and there's not been any Friday. I mean, Jason is an icon, and nothing. We got nothing.
Well, he's an icon, but I know there are some, rights issues and stuff like that, like you talked about, because there's rights issues around the video game that came out in 2016 or whenever.
Awesome video game if you're a Friday the 13th fan.
Great video game. They're shutting down servers on the 31st of December. I'm bummed.
What?
Yeah, we're losing it. So if you've not played Friday the 13th, the game for Xbox, PC, PlayStation, do yourself a favor and play that this Halloween too.
It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's my Friday the 13th timeline. Hopefully it makes sense to you. Now you can understand some of the movies that you're like, I don't understand this. Jason's not in this, or that's a copycat killer, or whatever. Or why is this one Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X, not Friday the 13th? There you go. So Happy Halloween and happy Friday the 13th. Check some good movies and maybe Friday the 13th Part 6. Jason lives. Happy Halloween.